The Linux Action Show is created by Jupiter Broadcasting. It's sponsored by Ting. Go to last.ting.com to save off your first device or plan, and DigitalOcean. Go over to DigitalOcean.com and use our promo code LASTDigital, and then you can spin up your own Linux rig for free. Welcome to Linux Action Show, episode 403. My name is Chris.
My name is Noah.
Hey, Noah, good morning to you. Guess what? Big show. No.
Well, you said guess what?
It's a huge show, Noah. The big game is right here. It's the Linux Action Show. This is the big game on a Sunday. This is all you need. Coming up on this week's episode, we're going to take a look at Slack versus Mattermost versus Rocket.Chat. What? Yeah, these are like the new collaboration tools that huge open source projects are beginning to use outside of IRC or open mailing lists. And some of these are locked up in a proprietary system, and the improvements being made to them just simply go back to the company when there's already open source alternatives out there to help you collaborate better in a whole new way. Even if you're just a couple of people or hundreds of people, this episode is going to have something for you. It's pretty neat. So look forward to that. And then in the news segment, what's going on with this new Ubuntu Tablet that's supposed to start shipping next quarter? We've got all of the details on the newly announced Ubuntu Convergence tablet, Noah. Full-on convergence. What's up? Also, an introduction to the Keybase file system. Yes, I said the Keybase file system. A brand new game that is shipping for Windows and Linux at the same time. It's a big deal, too. And then why the Internet of Things should probably break up with the cloud. We're not going to try to be too old codgery about this one, yelling at the kids to get off our lawn, but this article on Medium brought up some great points about why Internet of Things and the cloud just fundamentally don't make sense. Then in the feedback segment, we've got some great emails, a call out to the community, and all of that goodness. So it's a huge show. But before all of that, Noah, do you know what we've got?
I thought you were going to forget about the picks.
I know, it was way too much show. Way too much show. Yes, of course, it's the picks, and it's our Runs Linux picks. As always, this might be one of the most submitted that we've gotten in the last year. I mean, I think I saw this come into the show 6 times, 7 times in the last couple of days. And it came in waves, too, because there were a few more times, a couple of times in the subreddit. So we got to cover this one. Why, yes, it is the world's fastest Rubik's Cube solving robot. You guessed it. It runs Linux.
And solving.
That's it right there. Just solved.
My name is Jay Flatland. This is my friend Paul Rose. Hi. We've built an extremely fast Rubik's Cube solving robot. And we're in the process right now of applying for an official world record.
That's awesome.
1.196. All right, we're turning the cube with stepper motors. They are resting in a 3D printed frame. The stepper motors have little 3D printed feet on the ends of them that fit into carefully drilled holes
That's
in
awesome.
each side of the Rubik's Cube. Rubik's Cube can pop out. See, it's a regular Rubik's Cube aside from the holes.
And you can see the Linux box over here. See the USB deck that he has down there? Like a whole bunch of USB ports right there.
We need a couple.
And then a couple of Logitech cameras on either side of the post there.
And we use 4 USB webcams.
4 of them. Oh yeah, there's the other ones.
Determine the state of the cube.
That's awesome, dude.
Very rapidly. That camera information is fed into a PC application running on Linux.
Bingo.
That application
Ubuntu
determines
maybe?
the cube state, feeds the cube state into an implementation of the Kosiemba Rubik's Cube solving algorithm.
Of course.
Which determines a set of moves to solve the cube very rapidly.
Naturally. That's amazing.
We have 6 stepper motor drivers here, controlled by an Arduino chip, an Atmel.
That makes sense.
The Arduino is responsible for controlling highly tuned acceleration, deceleration curves to drive the stepper motors. 3, 2, 1.
Fire! Wow.
1.196. All right, I'm going to take out the cube and hand scramble it, as we will on our competition.
And they're covering up the cameras
day.
too. You see that?
Block one of the cameras, so
Yeah.
it's not getting any hints as I'm.
They're worried about the computer watching them.
Well, I think they're worried about people suspecting that the computer.
Yeah. I'll let you guys finish the rest of the video, but you get the idea. So that robot running on a Linux PC there, which looks like XFCE to me.
Really? I was going to say GNOME 2.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, could be.
So the thing, the interesting thing about that is, if you think about it, really, it's multiple runs Linux, because you can bet Linux is running on that Arduino as well,
right?
As well as on the actual solving PC. But here's the thing: I don't think I could solve a Rubik's cube if you gave me a year. So the fact that it can do it in 1 second, 100 seconds.
Live update: Renegade Dave in the or Devil in the chat room says CentOS with GNOME 3 Classic. Boom! Right here, breaking news on the last program. So Noah, if you will permit me, I have something embarrassing to share with you before we go any further. I got to get it out of the way now, because otherwise I feel like it's going to be distracting once it's seen.
Okay.
So I'm just going to say, I'm just the elephant in the room. See, I don't know if you can see it here, right here, Noah, but you see it's really hard because I'm doing it backwards. You see right here, Noah? See what that is?
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Did you goof your beard up?
Yeah, I did. I nicked my beard right there. See that right there?
No.
Yeah.
That's horrible. How'd that happen?
Well, so in the moving process, I lost my trimmer. So I just took my regular razor, and I just you can flip up the thing on the back, and I just started going pairing taking a huge weed whacker to a bush to your pairing, and I just got a little bit in the groove, and just 1 second later, it's just going in for a quickie shave, and next thing you know, I marked up my face. So it's this side over here.
No,
Actually,
that's
it's this
so
side.
good. Well, you and I will match this week, because did you notice I no longer have a Band-Aid?
Hey, yeah, it's gone.
Yeah, I just have. I don't know. You guys probably doesn't show up very well, but it's just.
I can see a little bit of the bruising's cleared up.
It'll be there permanently, because.
Oh, really?
That's gonna leave a mark. Oh yeah. But
it's permanent, huh?
Oh yeah.
Well, now everybody has something to look forward to at the next meetup.
Yeah. Well, it was funny, because everyone I talked to is like, "Oh, you should go in the emergency room and get that stitch." I'm like, "Give me a beer, some duct tape, I'll be fine."
Oh, you should have got it stitched, huh?
Yeah, well, that's what everyone kept telling me. I didn't think about it at the time.
Hey, you know what? Now you just look like a tough guy.
That's right.
And you got that story about a MacBook.
Exactly.
All right, Noah. So this is a particularly relevant sponsor this week, DigitalOcean, our first sponsor, because everything we're about to talk about this week is set up and running on DigitalOcean droplets. It's been, I'll tell you, DigitalOcean is a great place to go deploy a Linux machine when you want to try setting something up. So one of the things we're going to talk about today is Rocket.Chat. And Rocket.Chat's official method for installation is deploying a Docker image. So I went to DigitalOcean, and of course I used the promo code LastDigital. Well, not really, because I've used it, but you could use the promo code LastDigital and get yourself a $10 credit. But what was super cool is I went to deploy an image, and I went on the apps or whatever they call it section where they have the images with the whole software stack already set up, and they have Ubuntu 14.04 with everything. Well, I specifically needed Docker and Nginx. And on Ubuntu 14.04, that's not a super quick setup. You gotta go add repos, you gotta import the GPG keys, you have to install some dependencies, you have to add additional kernel images that aren't on the traditional 14.04 base image. So if you want to use Docker and Nginx, it actually saves you a fair amount of post-setup time. So I clicked the Docker Nginx image and deployed that on a DigitalOcean droplet, SSH'd into it, and literally within 45 seconds, I SSH'd in. I changed my root password, I double-checked the software was up to date, and then I deployed the Docker image, and I had Rocket.Chat up and running. It really is amazing, because it starts at $5 a month. And you can think about $5 a month, that's an incredible value for a Linux server, 512 megabytes of RAM, a 20 gigabyte SSD, because they're all SSDs, a blazing fast CPU, and a terabyte of transfer. And I decided I went with a $40 rig, because I thought, well, maybe if I hang on to this for a little while, and I decided I'm gonna invite the community in. So if you go to DigitalOcean's website, the pricing is very straightforward. So right now, I'm essentially paying an hourly rate to have a machine with 4 gigabytes of RAM, 2 CPU cores, 60 gigabyte SSD, and 4 terabytes of transfer. That's a lot. And I figure that way we can have folks in the live chat room and on our Patreon page bang on some of these instances. Plenty of bandwidth, and at the end, I'm paying 6 cents an hour. That's nothing. And if you use the promo code LastDigital, you get a $10 credit, and you can try it out 2 months for free. They've got data center locations in New York, San Francisco, Singapore, Amsterdam, London, brand new one in Germany and Toronto. They're really nice rigs. An amazing interface, easy to deploy Ubuntu, Fedora, FreeBSD, Debian, CentOS, CoreOS. They have fantastic tutorials, a straightforward API that a ton of good open source code is already written around that you can take advantage of. And they also have a ton of libraries, API wrappers. Go check it out. DigitalOcean.com. Use the promo code LastDigital. Support the show and get yourself a cool rig. And if you see anything we're talking about today, you can set it up at DigitalOcean in just minutes. It's really cool. DigitalOcean.
You'd be really happy or disappointed, one of the two. That I just ended up setting OwnCloud up using their one-click install.
Oh yeah, how was that?
Well, the install was fantastic. It was super easy and went super well. Now, if my data's still there in a week, then we'll have a
So you're trying it again, huh? You're trying it again. Good for you. Good for you. You know, here's one thing that I really liked about OwnCloud on DigitalOcean is the connection. First of all, I chose one in San Francisco. So to me, it's like it's as far as internet links go, it's pretty much local because I almost route anything outside of Washington State. Even if it's in Oregon, I go down to California first. So having a droplet in California is like a great slam dunk for me. And so when I would set up, a new distro or a blank machine and install that OwnCloud client, it would literally, from my DigitalOcean droplet down to my OwnCloud client, saturate the internet connection, just blasting the data at it as fast as my ISP could take it. And that was a super nice thing about using OwnCloud on DigitalOcean.
Yeah, well, and the nice thing is they allow you to set up with SSL. So
yes.
It automatically does the certificate generation.
Oh, it does that for you now? Oh, yeah. Ooh, that's fancy.
I literally clicked on the button. I clicked my SSH key. I clicked connect. I logged in, and when you log in, they give you a message of the day that shows you your own cloud username and password. Copied that, deleted that message of the day, and I was done.
Nice.
It was a working instance.
Lippy in the chat room set up a Rocket.Chat instance for the chat room to play with. He's doing it on a $5 droplet right now. It's pretty cool. So check it out, DigitalOcean.com. Use the promo code LastDigital. Get a $10 credit. Check them out at DigitalOcean.com. They're pretty great. They're pretty great. And the Mattermost install that people are banging on right now, running on a DigitalOcean droplet. And just love how fast it is to deploy. So one of the things I did is at one point I needed to reload. And what's really nice is you can just go back and reload that same 1404 image, Docker and Nginx, and it wipes the machine. It's like a brand new install, but like any of the DNS stuff you've set up or like any of that stuff remains persistent. So it makes the cost of reloading your box free, essentially, because all of the base install of everything I needed to set up Rocket.Chat just went right back on and then just SSH back in, Docker deploy, and I'm done. Or Docker run. And it's like... Because Docker, when you tell it to run a name, and if you don't already have it on the system, it just goes out and fetches it from Docker Hub, downloads it, and then runs it. It's once you have Docker installed, to get Rocket.Chat going, it's like a 10-second. Yeah. So it was really cool. It was super handy to play with a project like that on DigitalOcean. All right. So tell me about a little variety. Are we going to get some background diversity up in here?
Sure.
Variety is Noah's desktop app pick of the week that he looks like he completely forgot about.
No, I didn't know what you were talking about there for a second. No, so basically, this is my going to be my wife pleasing app. That's what I'm gonna call
nice,
dude. The wife pleasing app.
This would go good on your kitchen PC too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, that has a very specific background.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's
Sir
right.
Alton, and it will never change.
That's right. Alton Brown.
But basically, what this is it's an app, and you install it, and it will automatically change the wallpaper of your computer at a specified interval. Now, that's what I thought it was when I first found it and I was first playing with it and I first installed it and put it in the show notes. Afterwards, after playing with it for a while, you can do a whole ton of other stuff.
Yeah, like one of the things I really love about this is the crazy amount of varieties of sources for your images for the backgrounds. Like obviously you can have folders and you can have lots of local folders. You can have many local folders, but you can also do things like the Earth sunlight map and NASA astronomy picture of the day and Desktopper and Flickr's highest rated photos and stuff like that. You love that, right?
Yeah, for sure. And the thing is, it almost feels like widgets on Android, except on my desktop. And what's interesting was I thought they were the gimmicky, most dumbest thing ever when they were on Android. Now that they're on my Linux desktop, I think they're amazing.
Yeah, because some of the backgrounds, like you can have a clock on there. You can have inspirational quotes, like those inspirational, motivational posters.
That's motivational right there.
Yeah, that was, yeah. You can have different sources there. I mean, you can share your background on Facebook if you like that one. There's an example of the clock overlay. Also, one of the things that's really cool is you see how you can apply a filter to the background image, so the background is always blurred if you want it to always be blurred. Having a blurred background is actually kind of nice for icons. It makes icons more readable, and I actually have played with that a little bit. You can also automatically grayscale it, make it look like an oil painting, a charcoal painting, a couple other things to every background, so they all have sort of a similarity. It's a really cool program.
I have the clock one running on this computer in front of me, the machine that sits here in the studio, for the sole purpose of I frequently lose track of time while we're doing this. I get done. I have no idea if I've been here for an hour or 5.
I should put it so that way when I show my screen, people get an idea of what time it is in studio. Tyler does fairly point out that some of these things are like just built into the Plasma desktop, and this does work on I think Plasma desktop. I've definitely used it on GTK desktops. Mm-hmm. So it's called Variety, and I have played with it over the years and love it. It's definitely a good app pick. And I like fresh backgrounds, which is funny because I never change them here on the studio machine very often. So that might
because it's probably not high on your priority list.
Actually, no, it's because every now and then when it pulls in from the Flickr feed, it gets something that you don't necessarily want to put on air.
Oh, yeah.
So you got to be careful with some of the Flickr feeds and stuff.
I don't know if you do this, but I do this. Different backgrounds put me in different frames of mind.
Oh, yeah.
Different things. And so, if you may or may not have noticed, anytime we have a rig that we're using for production, I always have there's a Jupiter Broadcasting wallpaper that I use, and that has in subconsciously in my mind, I know never to install Telegram on that machine, never to open my email on that machine, because I know that there is a chance that desktop may be shared out at some point, and I have different wallpapers I use for different machines, and that kind of keys into that. And so but here's the thing, my wife doesn't have that problem. She just likes new and flashy and pretty things, and so for her, I think it'll be great. I'm going to stick to my static wallpaper. Well,
yeah. You could also, you can kind of lock it down to only certain sources that are a little safer.
Yeah. You could do that, or have different things with the JB logo. So
a folder of just images that are safe.
Sure.
All right, I'm going to install it right now. I'm installing it right now. No, I'm installing it right now.
Okay.
There we go. It is now installed on my machine. Because you know what? Why not? And maybe during the break,
what's the worst that could happen? The computer could crash.
What's the worst? I want to I want a clock. So maybe during the break, I'll figure that out. I'll configure that up. All right, so let's move right along to a spotlight that I really want to set up. I didn't get a chance to do it because I was already working on a whole other bunch of projects this week. I think I'm going to say it's called Sticked. What do you think?
Sticked. I'm going to go with Sticked, yeah.
Yeah, it's an advanced and beautiful paste bin written in PHP that you can deploy on your own rig.
That may or may not have saved Jupiter Broadcasting this week because, yet again, Slexy was down.
Slexy is still down. Slexy is where we paste all our emails to read on the show. It's been down for like a couple of weeks. It's been affecting TechSnap and BSD Now as well. And so Sticked is an open source PHP pastebin with the aim of keeping a simple and easy to use interface. Sticked allows you to easily share code with anyone you wish, based on the original Sticked with lots of bug fixes, easy setup, syntax highlighting. Did you notice it include Markdown? I think it does, but I can't remember. Here's something that's kind of neat. This could be specifically useful for our show production. Paste replies. So when we read an email on air, if somebody has a response to that, they could go do a reply to the paste, which is really cool.
That would be cool.
Yeah. You can do a diff view between the original and the reply. It has an API. You can search. It has trending paste, encrypted paste, theme support, anti-spam features, an Android app, multilingual, command line to upload, paste. A command line so you can upload that could be really great for doing, think about it. You're doing email, you drop down terminal, paste it in there, have it automatically go up. That could be really cool, Noah. A CLI tool requiring curl and many more. It looks really neat. And they have a tryout. But the installation's pretty straightforward, really. If you have PHP working on your system, then you just download it, drop it into a web directory. There's one cron job you can set up to curl the site and make sure that things get cleaned up. But it's really straightforward if you have PHP support, and if you or just deploy to Droplet and set up Apache and PHP with the deploy, you're ready to go. And so I'm thinking we should probably set our own installation of it, something with a cool Linux action, or probably a JB domain, because all of the shows get email, and so we probably shouldn't just do a last thing. But pretty cool.
Should. That's something I got to talk to you about at some point. We need a JB domain that I can start mapping. Address that have access to the DNS records, because I was, it would have been 3 different times this week. I was, I was working with the obviously with the pastebin, but also with the phone server and stuff like that, and they're all on different domains because reasons.
We do have Jupiter Colony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's chat about that.
And I also this week bought Jupiter.Chat for the Mattermost server, which that's pretty good. Jupiter.Chat, right? That's pretty good
for sure.
All right, Noah. So that is the picks. We've got links to all of that in the show notes. If you guys want to try any of those out, like Variety or Sticked, you can get a link to that in the show notes just by going to jb.com and or jupiterbroadcasting.com and looking for Last 403. With the picks all done, let's do the news.
Hey, it's the news, and this episode is brought to you by
Ting.com. Everybody knows that. Last.ting.com is where you go to get yourself a little bit off your next phone, or if you have a Ting-compatible device, well, then you get a little bit towards your service. It's a really great service. You only pay for what you use. They just take your minutes and your messages and your megabytes, and they add them up. No crazy plans or buckets or weird payment deals where they rebate you or anything like that. It's just very straightforward, and it's a flat $6 for the line. So that's really easy, which means you have some opportunity to play around with different setups that are a little unconventional. Noah and I have been Ting customers for a long, long time now, and now that they have a GSM and CDMA network, there's a lot of options to play with some creative ideas. And Noah, you just can't stop buying Ting devices. I know you just grabbed a couple more.
Yeah, it's gotten to be kind of like an addiction. And in fact, one of the guys that works for me, him and I were having a conversation this week, and like it's kind of ridiculous because both of us keep buying Ting devices simply because we can. So first he telegrams me and says, "Hey, I bought a new Nexus 5 this week, and then I also decided because I wanted a bigger brother to go with it, I decided to buy an LTE Nexus tablet as well." So he got those.
Look at you.
Well, so I didn't want to be one up. I can't let my total count go down, but I also don't have the money to compete with him in buying like super nice things. So I've gone to the other end of the spectrum. So the first one I bought is the Blue Samba TV. And the cool thing about the Blue Samba TV is it's a $19 unlocked GSM device with 2 SIM slots, so you can have active on 2 different accounts.
Oh.
And yes, I have 2
quad band too.
Yeah. And so I can have a work SIM and a personal SIM, and the ability to just send like simple text messages and stuff, because as much as I like Telegram, a lot of the people I work for, they're still on antiquated SMS. And so the neat thing about this was I was playing with it for a week to see, could I handle more stuff through just text messaging? But then I would want an actual physical keyboard, because I mean,
what's this?
Seen what it happens, so it's horrible. Either I use voice and it says things like I want to kill my mother, or I try and peck it out with my fingers, and then it looks like I'm texting with gloves on. Neither is good.
So you can go up to 32 gigabytes of storage. It has a camera. I'm loving the GSM frequency support. That's nice.
Right. And
Dual SIM is $20. Yeah, $20. That's pretty cool. All right, so that's device number one. Yeah.
Now here's phone number 2. The second phone is I have a work phone that I've had for a long time, but I wanted to bring that over to the GSM side. So what I was looking for is a super durable, simple phone that I can take and receive calls on.
Yeah.
And wound up with this etc. And so
that is enjoyable.
Japanese or Chinese made phone, and basically
it might also be Yaokai or something like that. The Yaokai X6 dual SIM cards.
Yeah, like HAWAI is a Huawei.
Dual standby? What's dual standby mean?
So you can turn either SIM off temporarily. You can put either SIM in standby.
Cool.
But that's not the coolest part. Here's the coolest part about that phone. On the side is a USB port, and the USB port gives you access to the ginormous freaking battery that's on the inside.
Whoa.
Yeah. So it is a cell phone and a battery pack. Now, if you look at the price, it's $35. And so that for a battery pack alone is worth it. And I get the advantage of just having the ability to have a dual SIM phone to go with it. So
you, with your cheap phone, could charge your expensive Android phone now.
Exactly. And the other neat thing is, if you look carefully at the battery picture, the battery is actually what has the USB port on it. And so you don't actually have to have it in the phone to use it as a battery pack. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it because if you've ever seen a battery get punctured, it's kind of a bad deal. But it has a micro USB charging port right on the battery, so you can use the battery independent of the phone, or you can put the battery inside the phone and use it as a super, super durable phone. And a kind of neat thing, it has a flashlight at the front of it.
That's a decent looking flashlight too. That's pretty cool.
So for $50, and then of course it's only $6.
Actually, you can you can get it for $32.99 on Amazon.
Oh, is that what? Okay.
Prime too.
Well, yeah, right. 33 for that, and then 20 for the blue. So I spent $50 total.
Yeah.
on Cool Toys, and then it would be $6 a month if I activated each of them individually. But what I ended up doing is I just swapped the SIM from one phone to the other. So I'm back on my main phone, and I have I just take the SIM out and stick it in one of those phones, play with it for a little bit, stick it in the next phone, play with it for a little bit.
This is what's great about Ting and why I think they're such a good fit for our audience, because if you understand this stuff even just a little bit, or want to learn more about it, or you really got it down, there's a lot of flexibility in what you can do with Ting that you just can't do on the other carriers. And the fact that it's $6 a month for that line makes it really fun. And you can even turn lines off for a while when you're not using them, which means if it's something that sits in a drawer, you're not sitting there paying on it, which is really nice too. And then you just turn it on when you do need it. It's pretty cool. All right, well, let's wrap up the Ting segment with Kyra's app pick of the week. Let's check it out. You know Kyra's here. She's going to be repping with the app pick.
Do 10 things at once on your smartphone? This app can help. I'm Kyra, and this is the Ting download. Multitasking on a smartphone isn't easy. Sure, you can use the app switcher, but this means a bunch of tapping, swiping, and switching back and forth. Pintasking aims to change that. This handy Android add-on lets you shrink apps you're using into little bubbles that stick to the sides of your screen. Tap the pin and it takes you right back to the app. Notice that the bubble has changed into a set of arrows? Tap that, and you'll be taken back to the app you're in before. If you have multiple pins, you can fast switch between apps just by tapping. You can even move pins around so they don't get in the way. Or if you want to remove a pin, just hold it down and then drag it into the trash. And when you turn off your screen, the pins go away. It's that simple. Pintasking also includes some gesture-activated shortcuts that come in handy. For instance, turning on Swipe Pad from the app will enable a hot corner that allows you to quickly switch back to the last app you were in. Pintasking comes in 2 flavors, Free and Pro. The free version only allows for 2 pins at any time and lacks any customization options for the pins. You can remove all these restrictions by upgrading for $3.99. A link to this app is in the description below. Why not subscribe to our channel and like this video? Thanks for watching, and see you next time.
Last.ting.com. That's a great app. I like that it goes away when you when you turn off the screen. I think that's a really nice feature. And the other thing I like a lot about it is the fact that you can just whoop, and it's gone. It's not going to just be persistent all the time. That is slick. And the quick switching might be nice from like doing it with your thumb or something like that when you want to just use it all with your one hand. So that's pretty cool. Check that out at the Ting blog. They have a bunch of other great stuff. Just go to last.ting.com first to go to their blog, and that supports the show. And watch the other app picks as well. All right, while we're talking about mobile, let's talk about this new Ubuntu tablet that has been promised. Our coverage starts at the OMG Ubuntu site. And are you ready for the deets, Noah? I'm going to give you a lowdown. Mm-hmm. Prepare your brain. It's a 10-inch tablet coming from BQ in the second quarter, so next quarter. They're called the M10. It's an existing tablet that they're going to be able to modify to run Ubuntu. The current version ships for around €259, and that runs Android. So it's probably going to be somewhere around that. Here's what we got for specs. It's got a 64-bit MediaTek MT8 16.3 quad-core processor running at 1.5 gigahertz with 2 gigabytes of RAM. So they say multitasking should be fluid. It has an 8-megapixel rear camera, 5-megapixel front camera. It has micro HDMI video out. It also has a micro USB slot, or port for charging. Wi-Fi 802.11 BGN, Bluetooth 4.0, GPS built in. Heyo, Wi-Fi iPad ain't got that. 11-hour battery with a 7200 milliamp battery. 470 grams weight. Graphics is a MediaTek Mali T720 MP2 at 600 megahertz. Storage is a meager 16 gigabytes of eMMC, but it's expandable up to 64 gigabytes with micro SD cards. Front-facing speakers, which I think is a big deal for watching movies, and also has Dolby Atmos technology. That's at least in the Android version. And the sensors it has a brightness sensor, an accelerometer, and an e-compass.
So
I think this sounds compelling to me. What do you think?
I'm in for one reason and one reason. Well, 2 reasons. The first is, if it's coming from Canonical, it's running Linux, I'd actually be comfortable storing files on it. Chances are it will probably support something like Lux anyway, but even if it didn't, I could live with it because I wouldn't put as sensitive of data on there, but I'd put some data on there, at least a heck of a lot more than I put on my Android tablet. But the second thing and the big thing and the usability thing for me is the fact that I can pair it with a mouse and a keyboard and get a lightweight, albeit Linux regular desktop, something I'm comfortable with, something I use.
And I'll just to interrupt there, Joey points out in the OMG Ubuntu article that it's worth underscoring this is a 64-bit quad-core ARM processor, which means in the context of convergence and the desktop mode, that actually might be a legitimate feature to have in a tablet like this, a 64-bit CPU. So that's a big deal. I'm a little worried about 16 gigabytes built-in storage. That seems, these things could change. I'm a little worried it's a MediaTek processor. These things could change.
Is there ability for an SD card?
Micro SD up to 64 gigabytes.
Yeah. So there you go. And the thing is, the Pixel had 64 gigabytes, and I managed to live on that. So, but here's the thing: we have to keep this in mind. This is a lightweight desktop, alternative.
Yeah, it's like an Ultrabook kind of thing.
Well, I would say, to me, the definition of an Ultrabook is an ultralight, super thin, powerful laptop. To me, this equates more to like a netbook. And so if so for the things like when you and I are at conferences, right, and we're bouncing around from table to table, and I need to open up and you want to pop an SD card in and listen to a couple of files and rename them, man, this is ideal because it sits inside of the bag. It comes out, I mean, it might be a little more difficult because you'd have to have a USB cable and do that dance. But, for renaming files and labeling them or maybe uploading them to, the ever so evolvent FTP, things like that, I think it's going to be, there's a great use case for it. Now, am I going to take it, into JB1 and sit down and edit video with it? Probably
not with this one.
Well,
with a 7200 milliamp battery and a 1.5 gigahertz ARM processor, it could get pretty decent battery life too, which could make it a nice device. So Engadget, this story is running everywhere. And we're showing Engadget's picture right here. All right, front page picture on Engadget is the tablet hooked up with a single cord to a monitor and then a Bluetooth mouse and keyboard. So one cable and then a Bluetooth mouse and keyboard, and you get the Unity 8 desktop on that big screen. And down the road too, you could see how that tablet monitor could even function as a second screen once they're powerful enough to drive the external graphics and the internal graphics at the same time. I'm really kind of excited to see this. And here's my next hope, Noah, is I'm really hoping that we don't have to go through some sort of incantation to get in the pre-order process, like shake a tree and then be on Twitter at a certain time and then do a dance and then write a story and then submit a story with a picture attached and then maybe you go into the pre-drawing. I don't want any kind of OnePlus shenanigans or anything like that. I want to be able to just order the device like I can an actual real tablet that real manufacturers make. And I'm hoping because it's BQ, that might be a doable thing.
Yeah, it's funny how many times I don't end up buying something because it's just simply not available on Amazon. And the thing, it's not that I have any particular allegiance to Amazon. It's just that I know that if it shows up with a little yellow button that says buy and there's a price there, I know I'm going to pay the price. I'm going to click the button and something's going to show up at my door, and it's that simple and that straightforward. And you're right. There are certain things, and the OnePlus 2 I think was even worse than the OnePlus 1 in that it was the most convoluted process ever. Is just horrible.
Super annoying.
But the other thing I'd be interested in, maybe somebody from that's more involved with the project could speak a little bit more authoritatively on this. I'd be interested to know, because I'd imagine this is going to be a real popular question, is this stuff available for existing hardware? Can I take?
Could you buy this tablet running Android and reflash it? Is that your?
Well, I have a Nexus 7 that I bought specifically to put Ubuntu Touch when it came out.
Oh well, that's it's not officially supported device, my friend.
Even if it's not officially supported, if is there a way that you can get it to work? Because a documented way to get it to work, I should specify.
No. I think the official answer would be, well, the community is welcome to make that port.
Great. So in the meantime, that device has been relegated to watching how fast the battery can drain. But if this comes out, I would be willing to drop a couple $100. To be honest with you, I'd pay more than $250 for it. I'd pay probably $354 if I could have a usable tablet-like device that would easily transition into a laptop that would be a full Linux experience, and then have a scaled-down tablet-like interface, because as I've said numerous times, and I stand by this, things that work well on a desktop don't work well on a tablet, and things that work well on a tablet don't work well on a desktop.
Everybody on the internet with an opinion, which is everybody.
Is everyone on the internet?
Yep. They've all said, and we've been part of that group, have all said that this Ubuntu Touch UI would be great on a tablet. Like whenever I've used it on a phone, I've been like, I feel cramped because I don't actually have them all memorized. This is the other problem I have with touch gestures. But when I'm swiping if I'm holding an Ubuntu Touch device and I'm swiping from the right, depending on the speed at which I swipe, it actually has different functions, and the nuance between that speed is. So and then on the other side is my launcher, and there was one game I was playing where you swipe to play the game, which is like all games, right? And I kept swiping and launching stuff, or changing the task switcher. So I felt it was too cramped. I kept feeling a little claustrophobic using it on the Nexus 4, which is not a huge screen to begin with. So getting it on a 10.1-inch tablet with a 1920 by 1200 resolution, 10-point capacitive touch sensors, a 10-point capacitive touch sensor on a larger 10-inch screen is going to make a swipe gesture-based environment feel much roomier. I think it's going to feel much better on a tablet. This is always where I've wanted to put my money for Ubuntu Touch first. Not only that, and I'm going to wrap my opinion up on this, but I think this form factor is much more likely to have a more successful. You're going to have a better time with your standard Linux desktop apps on this 10-inch tablet than you are running LibreOffice on your 4-inch Nexus 4, right? Don't you think? LibreOffice or Firefox, which aren't going to have Qt, QML ports to Unity 8, that you're still going to want to run on because they have ARM versions out there, they're going to work a lot better on a 10-inch tablet than a phone, right?
To dovetail onto that, Linux on the desktop has, a bunch of competitors that are trying to dominate that market. You have Windows and Mac OS, and in the phone space, you have Android and iOS that heavily compete. The tablet space is kind of this weird thing where it is pretty heavily dominated by both Android and iOS. Like if you walk around Sears now, they have all the checkouts running on iOS tablets, and they meet you in the middle of the thing and swipe your card and stuff like that. So you definitely have a presence there, but I don't think there's a lot of presence in this convergence space, and this idea of I want a laptop in a tablet-like form factor that kind of goes between the two. And I can see, I've said it before, I can see a huge market for that in the business professional world. Fast forward 2 years. Let's say the processors have doubled in speed in 2-3 years. And that's a low, right? I mean, these ARM processors are going like crazy. So let's say all the resources and power in this thing double in a couple of years. With GPUs pretty good, cameras maybe up to 12, 14 plus megapixels, really good camera for doing audio conferencing. You could take a tablet like this, and it could be your main rig while traveling. Because I've really been experimenting with reducing my technology when I travel. And you brought a USB headset, and you could really make this your remote podcasting rig with a built-in camera. I mean, there's a lot of potential for something like this, especially for somebody like you who travels a lot and you want it to be Linux-based. So I'm really excited about this, and we'll be following any other future developments about when pricing or when it goes on for sale, and if maybe Mr. Popey or others want to come on Unplugged and tell us other details that we've missed, we'd love to hear that too. So, any other thoughts on the tablet before we wrap up there, Noah? No, I'll let you know when mine arrives.
Yeah, when yours arrives. All right, I'm pretty excited about this. I don't even fully grok what it's going to mean, but Keybase, the people behind Keybase.io have the Keybase file system. Keybase.io is like a social networking around your public key. So Noah, you talked about this in our scale episode last week, but one of the problems with public keys is you went to a key signing party where people were like, that's Noah, I verify that's Noah, so you can trust that's Noah's key. And that's definitely one way to do it, but in the online era, a service like Keybase has been trying to solve this problem, and I'm a Keybase member. And I don't remember how long ago I signed up. It's been ages. But the way it works is you verify your identity by your social accounts, your websites, all these different things that you can get that get add trust to say who you really are is who you are. And then so when the audience out there wants to look up my key, they can go to keybase.io/ I think it's just /Chris LAS. Let me look. Chris LAS. Yeah, and so this is my identity on Keybase. So you know that, and you can see that I have confirmed on GitHub. I've confirmed it by confirming it via the Jupiter Broadcasting website, which I think is pretty reassuring to the audience. And I've confirmed it using Bitcoin. So I have a couple of different ways, and you can actually send me messages this way, and there's a whole keychain. We've talked about all of this before. And so now the guys at Keybase, instead of figuring out how they're going to make money, have decided to launch a peer-to-peer file system that uses encryption. It's an alpha release of it right now, so don't put anything really all that important in there. But every file you write is signed. Every file you write to this file system is signed with your key. There's no manual signing process, no tarring or GZIP, no detached signatures. Instead, everything in this folder appears as plain text files on everyone's computer. You can even open /Keybase /public /your name in a Finder or Explorer or WebDAV share, and you can get it. So like /Keybase /public /Chris LAS would be mine. And I can make that public, and those are all files that I've put there that are signed by me. So when you're in like a thread on Reddit or Hacker News or IRC or Slack or Mattermost or Rocket.Chat, and you want to just make something available to everybody, you can put it there and they know it's really your file. In fact, when they were setting up with some funding, they talked about how they had to go back and forth on Twitter, and it was pretty embarrassing. They say you'll be able to throw data into /Keybase /private /your name and pal at Twitter. Even if he hasn't joined yet, your app will encrypt just for you and then awake and rekey in the background when that Twitter user joins and announces a key. So they'll watch for that. When they join and pair it with their Twitter account, it'll rekey to that. And then they'll have access to the files you've shared with them on the Keybase file system OS. So you can see when they were setting up for funding, one of the guys says, if you use Dropbox, DM me your email address for that account and I'll share the video with you. And then he writes back, apparently I can't DM you because you're not following me. I'll have to email you when I get off work. He replies back, oops, sorry, I thought I was. So the whole idea is you'll just say, go find the file at /Keybase /my name, your name, and you'll have access to this file. Just be able to do it right out there. You can even do it in the public. And of course, you can all do it via the command line too, because they have command line utilities for Linux. So I don't know much about this, but this sounds like a pretty compelling way for people to exchange files online. And it's not so much about the encryption of those files, but verifying who the files are from and where they're going and making sure that. So really, I could publicly give you a path in the IRC chat room that only you could get access to, or everyone could get access to depending on how I set it up. And Keybase, this whole thing's going to be open source, this whole file system.
Do you think that there's a security privacy concern here where, if you start signing, if we start signing these files, essentially we have also enabled the ability to track those files back to not necessarily a person, but definitely to
an identity,
a specific source.
Because the identities have to be verified on both ends. It could be an elaborate online identity. But I think the thing about GPG encryption isn't so much about hiding the metadata, because when you send me a GPG encrypted email, all the SMTP data is still out in the clear, and so all of the who got sent to who at what time is out there, and but the contents are encrypted. So it sort of works the same way. They also do end-to-end folder encryption, which is pretty cool. So you could do entire folders. I don't know. I'm really curious to see where they go with this. I think they have a pretty interesting service to begin with. But you're right. It does. But so does Dropbox and pretty much everything else, right? They all kind of track you back to identity.
True. Yeah, it's not any worse. That's for sure. Yeah.
Fascinating. And congrats to the folks over at Keybase.io. So I wanted to just cover this story. It got some traction in our subreddit. Why the Internet of Things should break up with the cloud. And this, I don't mean to go, we don't have to go get all on the lawn, but just a couple of points did really stand out at me that I thought that our Linux-loving audience would admit. So it opens with, for Internet of Things developers, the cloud is like a beer in a college dorm. A cold one is around every corner you turn, and beer just becomes a constant part of academic life. So when Internet of Things developer is offered free cloud-based frameworks, databases, analytics, etc., reactions like, hey, look at all this cool cloud stuff, I think I'll use it to build an Internet of Things product, is more than an exception. He makes a great point, it's not just about like Azure processing and things like that. It's about frameworks that you just can use to get like a whole bunch of your work done that use cloud services built into them, or analytics to see when things crash or how users are using these services, use these cloud services. So this is a great piece to understand, because there is a lot of reasons that push developers to create devices that are hooked into proprietary, closed-off online services that can just go away, like we talked about last week. For example, Let's pick on the Nest thermostat just for a second as an example of how this works. So a Nest thermostat has a Wi-Fi radio and is accessed via your smartphone, which also has a Wi-Fi radio. Yet for your smartphone to access your Nest thermostat, it does so via a long-distance internet session with a Nest cloud server, even though it would be faster and more reliable to connect to your thermostat and smartphone on a peer-to-peer basis. But because the way everything's set up, the way their service works, it just goes to the cloud first. There's a lot of frameworks that go to the cloud first. Cloud-based Internet of Things developer platforms pop up weekly. No doubt due to the low bar of entry, geez Louise, provided by the cloud. The extreme example being the shark jumping Salesforce Internet of Things platform. Or maybe the Fitbit, a wristband that connects via Bluetooth with your smartphone, but then sends your activity data to the Fitbit cloud app, and then back down to your phone for you to view the process. Next generation Internet of Things computing platforms that include augmented reality are already using round trip to the cloud to resolve objects in the headset. So as we build in new stuff, we're also just building it around the cloud. It's cheap and it's everywhere. And compared to older desktop-based tools, cloud-based environments and APIs are vastly simple to use and integrate while offering robust functionality. But as we know, it's riddled with issues. Also, I'd point out that both Apple and Google are heavily influencing it. Apple by not supporting NFC properly in the iPhone, forcing everyone who wants to be compatible with a vast majority of iPhone users to use Bluetooth. And of course, Google has their paws in it because they want to collect data and do advertising and all other kinds of things. So it's already an unhealthy relationship between devices and the cloud, and users are left right in the middle. So I remain sort of like stuck too, because this to me it seems to apply not just to like things that control lights, like the Hue lights here in the studio, but also things like Roku's and Fire TVs and things like that. Where, for example, in the Rover, in Lady Jupiter now, Rover 2, whatever, I would like to be able to go down the road, driving down the freeway at 65 miles per hour, and be able to have the kids watch anything they want off of a local box that doesn't have any external connectivity, because it's just not easy to stream high-definition video at 60 miles per hour. So this, to me, seems like it should be such a simple thing, yet to get a small box that does everything I want, I'm talking like Netflix and maybe Amazon Prime Video or something like that, it just doesn't exist. Doesn't really exist. You can build a Kodi box to do some of these things, but I also have certain limitations there. I really feel like I'm really looking for solutions that aren't internet connected, and my options are becoming fewer and fewer.
So I hate the cloud. I have hated the cloud.
I even hate the name. I even hate the term "the cloud."
So I won't make any that I've gone on record numerous times and say that I think you should own your own data. You shouldn't rely on other people's services. All that said, I'm going to take the opposite side simply for the purpose of discussion. It does not necessarily represent.
And by the way, just really quick, not just before you go on your tear, the cloud to me now has turned from what really is just other people's computers that we call the cloud.
Right.
That is definitely a form of the cloud. But now there is this new abstracted layer where you only interact using APIs and keys, and you don't ever even really work with the below software. Mm-hmm. That is sort of like this weird abstracted software as a service that isn't really like remote hosted, because sometimes you hit it once and it hits one set of servers, you hit it again, it hits a whole other set. Like it is a totally different beast, and a lot of these things are plugging into these services and APIs that are available that aren't quite just running your data on other people's computers, but it's a form of it at the same time. It's getting weird, Noah. It's getting thick out there.
It is. So here's the opposite. Here's the argument from the other side. The argument from the other side is people are morons. And they're lazy. And so they're lazy morons. And so what it comes down to is there are people out there that they'll bring home their thermostat and they want to put it on the wall and they want to turn it on and they want everything to happen automatically for them. And they want to just have jazz hands and then the thermostat works. And in order to have the kind of connectivity that runs my entire house, I'm living what I preach, I have to know the IP addresses of those devices, and I have to know the ports of those devices to get them to work properly. If it's going to interface with outside devices, I have to know how to get my public IP. I have to know how to forward the port inside of my router to the individual device, and that's what gives me the ability to control that stuff from outside the house. And so, for the people that are either too lazy or too ignorant to figure that kind of thing out. They have to be able to have some sort of if you're a manufacturer and you want this stuff to work, if you want to be able to plug the Nest thermostat in and change the temperature on your way home, you don't have a choice but to have a third-party service that sits up in the cloud and connects down to this thermostat and says, this device exists, and here's the app that's installed. And so when this person says, I want to raise the temperature 3 degrees, then send it to this device, that's the only way to make that stuff work. And I have always been uncomfortable. It has ever since I got burned, a couple years ago. I'll probably never get over this. I'll walk around with a chip on my shoulder for the rest of my life, with a software company that burned me with an activation code for software that we paid $20,000 for. Not we, a client, we couldn't reactivate the software because they said that they would no longer activate versions so and older. I've just totally gone away from anything that requires that company to stay in existence or function. I want or get bought out for that matter.
Yeah, I
want nothing to do with it.
I think you had a life lesson for all of us when that happened to you, Noah, is that if it's important to you and you want to own it and it relies on a remote connected service, you should probably manage and control that. You need to have ownership, and it should probably be open source.
So my lights, beautiful. My lights, my thermostat, anything that's connected to my network. I care about all that stuff.
So this is why I want you to come out well before Linux Fest, because I got a couple ideas about taking things offline that I can help with. So before we go offline, let's talk about Steam games. Hey, everybody. Hi. This is a pretty cool game. So XCOM 2, everybody knows XCOM. If you don't feel bad. It's just a really well-known, loved game. XCOM 2 just came out, and what I think is super exciting about this is not only is it just a real tier 1 game, but launched on the same day with Windows, Linux, and Mac support. Just requires Ubuntu 14.04, an i3 processor, 8 gigabytes of RAM. Here's the big whammy right now. And they're working on this, I would imagine, NVIDIA-only GPUs. In fact, they even recommend an NVIDIA 960, which I think that's probably crazy, but an NVIDIA-only GPU right now. That's a bit of a bummer. But it's a pretty slick game. It's a different take on a game that I think you might really like, Noah. Because I know how you get with the first-person shooters. I know how you get with those. Your son will just whoop you in a first-person shooter. He will whoop you. And so this is more of a strategy game. It's a sequel to the award-winning strategy game XCOM Enemy Unknown. So this is the next one. They just released it. 20 years have passed since humanity lost the war against the alien invaders, and the new world order now exists on Earth. After years of lurking in the shadows, XCOM forces must rise and eliminate the alien occupation. And what's really cool about this is human manufacturing plants don't exist anymore, so there's a lot of integrating alien technology, and they're scavenging for old classic human parts. So it's got a full 3D engine. You get into the zone and you get into the combat, and then at a different point in the game, you take an overhead perspective for managing. At least in the previous XCOMs. I haven't played this one. But there's a lot of really cool, going in there, setting up your troops, setting up your location, leveling up people. But it's done in a way that's very easy to follow, very easy to understand. I don't have a lot of capacity for quickly learning how these games, how you make all these things work in these games. But I'll just give you an example of a kind of a cool scene here in the game.
Harmless to human life. If only the same could be said for the rest of the aliens technology. Commander. Dr. Richard Teigen, Chief Science Officer. I am responsible for the entirety of our research here, as well as the procedure you so recently underwent. Welcome to my lab, such as it is. I'm not sure what Central may have told you, but we found something while removing you from the alien stasis suit. A device implanted directly in your occipital lobe.
So this is how they set up the story. It's pretty cool, but it's not just a random cutscene. It also is sort of getting you to like this guy, so that way you give him more resources and crew.
Had I access to the equipment available to me during my tenure at Advent, I would already know the precise nature of its function. However, given time and your approval, of course, Commander, I assure you, I will find out. Which brings to light an additional point. Though aspects of this facility are indeed impressive.
So then he asked for upgrades. It's a good solid game. Check it out, XCOM 2. Right now, though, on the Steams, it's $60. So you might find it.
Cow.
Yeah, well, it's a like I say, it's a AAA game. It's a big deal. So that's why, and I don't know about that 960 NVIDIA requirement, but do remember AMD and Intel GPUs not supported at this time because Linux is hard, apparently, but it is out there for the NVIDIA folks, and it's pretty cool. XCOM 2 is a great new game for Linux. I had to get my game in. We haven't talked about games for a while, and when a big one lands on Linux, I think it's worth mentioning. Noah.
I would have. Here's the thing that I'm. Call me simplistic, but like the whole storyline and just get to the part
just want
where
to race the sun. That's what you want.
Gun, let's start shooting people.
Race the Sun's the right game for you. It's nice.
Yeah, exactly. There's no intro. There's no nothing. You click start. The spaceship
I normally am not into any of that, but XCOM is the exception for me. That's why it is the exception, because there's relevant things to the game in there that are pretty good. So. Yeah, that is. And distance is fun, too. All right, Noah. Well, that's all the news for the week. Let's go talk about Mattermost versus Rocket.Chat versus Slack. Let's collaborate in a brand new way that's supposedly way better than IRC forums or mailing lists or online discussions. But everybody seems to be loving it. Slack, it's the new hotness that's grabbing a lot of projects by storm. You probably heard a lot of people talking about Slack. We've mentioned it from time to time on our shows. We've been using it for a couple of months now to organize a lot of our back-end stuff. And so it's come up. Should we really be using a closed source service to do this? Or is there an open source solution that's way better, or at least has potential to be better? And especially if a lot of us in the open source community started putting our energy into that, it might evolve very quickly. Now, there's a bunch of different contenders out there, and the two popular ones, at least from our survey, appear to be Rocket.Chat and Mattermost. Both are similar in some sense and fundamentally different in other senses, especially like the setup and things like that. So we're going to take a look at these two top Slack competitors in this week's episode of the Linux Action Show, tell you which one we've decided to go with for production here at Jupiter Broadcasting, and maybe opening up to the community. It's a big, big segment, and I hope, even if you're not interested in deploying something like this yourself, you are interested in how open source software gets made and how those groups collaborate and will be collaborating in the future. But first, let me tell you about our friends at Linux Academy. Go to linuxacademy.com/unplug to get the unplugged discount right here for the Linux Action Show. This is a platform for anybody interested in the technology stack in, on, and around Linux. Built by Linux enthusiasts, created for Linux enthusiasts, educators, developers, and Linux diehards got together and created Linux Academy. 2,299 video self-paced courses with downloadable comprehensive study guides. They have scenario-based labs and instructor help whenever you need it. Graded server exercises, courses built around Red Hat, obviously, Linux in general, Python, OpenStack, PHP, Amazon Web Services, Android DevOps, Ruby, Python, there's others. They have in-depth resources, live events, detailed notes, practice exams, which is super nice for me because I do not test very well. Your own Linux server comes with the courseware, spins up on demand when you need it, 7+ distributions you choose from, and then they modify the courseware and the server. They have enhanced learning plans, allow you to create a learning plan that'll guide you along with your studying. It's as simple as putting in your available daily study time, and then a special algorithm will create detailed learning plans with reminders and daily assignments, labs, and quizzes that are due. It also will create an expected completion date that helps you schedule some of your cert exams down the road. It's very nice. They have certification preparation for Linux certified training, AWS certification training, OpenStack, and DevOps. They also have a deal with the Linux Foundation, all of those. This is one of the resources that Noah uses for his Red Hat certified training. Check them out at linuxacademy.com/unplug to get our discount and support this show. They got lots of new features they've rolled out recently, including Ansible, AWS, Docker, and Elastic Beanstalk, a new Cloud Cadet episode. Linux Academy is growing all the time, and you're always getting more value out of your subscription. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. And a big thank you to Linux Academy for sponsoring the Linux Action Show. I've been a member for, I think, almost 2 years now.
Yeah. I jumped on right when they came, or right when you announced them on Unplugged.
Yeah.
I haven't turned. The thing is, I use them for two things. I use them for all of the work stuff, keep up on certification stuff like that. But it's also kind of turned. It's my version of. It's my Netflix or my cheap entertainment at night that I can goof around with, because I'm a I can't do the whole like I'm going to sit in front of a TV and watch TV. That's just not my idea of entertaining. I have to be doing something constructive or it drives me nuts. I need little projects, and when I run out of actual useful projects or things I can get paid to do, then I got to go do something on my own. And that's basically what I use Linux Academy for. After I'm done with the certification for because Red Hat's like 4 years, 5 years, something like that. In between, now I'm going through programming, and actually I'm using Linux Academy actually to try to write a desktop app or work on a desktop app, or at least understand how a desktop app, when I hire a developer to do a desktop app, works for OS Ticket, because I want a native application.
Good thinking. That's a great idea. That is really cool. I've thought about all kinds of things. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. Go try it out. Go scratch an itch and see what sticks. Might find something brand new. So I want to start with Rocket.Chat this week. Rocket.Chat and Mattermost were suggested the most by our community. Most of the time it goes like this. Hey, you guys should check out Mattermost. And then somebody says, also Rocket.Chat. And they're both open source. They both allow for on-premises deployment. They're both free. And they both are essentially collaboration tools. And I want to show you kind of the difference in setting them up. Rocket.Chat is very straightforward, better or worse. Rocket.Chat's official deployment is using Docker. So you deploy a MongoDB Docker container, and then you deploy a Rocket.Chat container that's linked to that MongoDB container. And then it's up and running. That's essentially, you can use some port forwarding and things like that to get a regular URL, but that's essentially the recommended installation of Rocket.Chat, which to me feels a little unofficial, to be honest with you, because I'm not sure what the long-term upgrade process is with my data. But it's an interesting way to do it, and you can get going really fast, and Docker is definitely a viable platform for people to do this kind of thing. Mattermost has a much more traditional installation. If you're going to use it in production, they recommend you deploy it on a database server, on a web server. You can do it on 3 separate servers or a single server, depending on your size, and they have instructions for that. If you're testing, then they say use Docker. So be prepared if you want to deploy Mattermost for a step-by-step guide if you're going to do it in production and you want to have it the way they recommend you do it. And that involves installing PostgreSQL, setting up the PostgreSQL, configuring user accounts, setting up Mattermost, installing Nginx, setting up Nginx. It's a little more involved, but it's certainly doable. So that's sort of the initial difference. Rocket.Chat, you could have it up in 5 minutes. Mattermost, maybe more like 15, 20 minutes. So it's I don't know. There's different technologies. Essentially, Rocket.Chat is a web app that you drop into a directory and then use Nginx to port forward to it. Mattermost is a little bit more of a traditional server installation using their official method. They both give you a web-based chat environment that supports code snippets, image uploads, file uploads, team chats, private messages, image embedding, topic embedding. I'll show you. Here is Rocket.Chat. This is Rocket.Chat that we have going right now. And we have a general channel. You can see if there's any other channels. Yep, there's a last channel. And Sweet Lou and Lippy and Whisker 07 are in here. And I can ask to join. And now I've joined. You can see it also. Let me bring up the web browser a little bit down here. It has support for voice notes to some degree. It has inline code support, and you can get a little sample of that by looking at some of the things people have been putting in line. And Rocket.Chat also has mobile apps available for iOS and Android, ready to go right now. So you can get up and running in minutes. I'm going to tell you why you would use something like this over IRC in a minute. I just want to keep going. Now here's Mattermost. Mattermost looks a lot like Rocket.Chat, which looks a lot like Slack. You can see here's an example of some images. Here is some inline code snippets, no highlighting like in Rocket.Chat, but still there. Rough markdown support in here. And here you can see people from the chat room are chatting away. It's a very usable environment. I could attach a file here. I can see just mentions for just me here on the side, which is a nice feature. I can see all of the people who are active in this room right now. I can send them messages directly if I want. I can do a text search. I can set the channel header and the topic. I can set my notification preferences per channel. So some topics I get notified and other ones I don't. Both available in Rocket.Chat as well as Mattermost. Rocket.Chat seems to have a pretty good UI, but I'm not as comfortable with the setup, and their mobile app feels a little clunkier to me, even though Rocket.Chat has a mobile app for iOS and Android. Mattermost only has an iOS app, but that app feels more robust, and they're working on an Android one right now. So yeah, that's sort of the basics. Go ahead.
Point out that Rocket.Chat does have the ability to do a traditional install now. I guess the Docker thing was just more or less an initial thing.
It's still sort of the way they push everybody. But yeah, of course. I mean, because it's set up in a Docker image in an Ubuntu environment, right? So I guess the question that you would be asking, a lot of people in the chat room would be asking, is why are people using these types of collaboration services instead of something like IRC? Because we all know that IRC's been around for ages. And a couple of things struck me for group collaboration. When you're working on a project or you're working in a business, it is nice to have one persistent space where even when you're not there, you can still go back and read the entire chat log. You can archive it off, and everybody has the same exact capabilities because everybody is using the same exact client, either the desktop version or the web version. In IRC, not everybody has a persistent connection and sees the entire log, so therefore they can miss entire parts of the conversation. And when you're all working remotely, this is a nice feature. In IRC, not everyone has the same IRC client. Some IRC clients show images in line. Some will preview text that you link in there or YouTube videos. Some are just raw, plain text and don't do anything but just show text. So there's not a commonality. I can't +1 a comment in IRC, which means I could, like in some of these, you can just go in there and say, I agree, I'll give a +1 to that comment. You don't need to actually reply. There are functionalities in Mattermost and Rocket.Chat that aren't quite available in IRC, like voice chats, inline code snippets, markdown support, those kinds of things that aren't necessarily available. So that's kind of nice. The persistent chat, though, is a pretty great feature because it means that the team and I can be discussing something about this week's episode of LAS for maybe all day Thursday, and Noah's out at a client. And he gets back Thursday evening. He's able to open up the LAS thread, and he's able to be up to speed on everything that developed, no worrying if his IRC client was logged in or logged out of the environment. And I also know that any image, and sometimes we'll put screenshots of apps and stuff in the thread, he'll see it too. He doesn't have to click it and load it in a separate tab. It's going to be inline in there, those kinds of things. So it has some advantages over IRC.
You can actually go through inside. Well, I mean, we've been using Slack, but you can go through in Slack and actually look, and you can say, oh, I can tell that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are kind of slow, and Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday are super busy. Because if you look, you can see where I'm periodically checking in, and then I'll just go through and say, this person addressed that, this person addressed that, this person addressed that, this person addressed that, but it's all in one block, and that's because I'm going in there one time and addressing all that stuff and going back. And the other thing is, because it's segmented out into different categories, we have one for LAS and one for Unplugged and we had one specifically for Scale. Because of that, you have less clutter. So for example, when we're using like Vibe or a Telegram, we had, production chat in there, or even in IRC where you had production chat, everything related to production was all in one space. And that got to be cluttered. Now, you could argue that you could go through and make individual chats for, every individual topic. That would be kind of a pain.
I'll show you, though, just to go. So on Mattermost here, let's say you want to create a new channel. And it's really easy. Anybody can do it. I can do new channel. Name is going to be Chris is Super Hungry. And you see, so now it's Jupiter.chat/colony/Chris is super. Like it automatically makes a URL that you could share with people. The purpose is, are you as hungry as Chris? Tell me about it. So this is just a channel for people to complain about how hungry they are, like I am right now. Hey guys, I am super hungry. Okay, so you can say this is the start of a channel right here. Now I can set a header. Let's talk about how hungry I am. Okay, so there's my header. That notifies everyone in the channel that I've just changed the header. And now Douglas Coes is just in there, and I can invite others to the channel. I can see everybody who's online right now. I'll invite Blaster. He might be hungry. Ham Radio might be hungry. And see, here, I'll invite you too, Noah. See, now people are joining into the I'm Super Hungry channel. And we can, come on in. I hear knocking. I thought I heard knocking. I'm so hungry, I'm hearing knocking now. So there, look at that. Douglas Codes is going to Korean barbecue in an hour. So this is a nice way for anybody to be able to set it up. Hi there. Hi, what you got? Hi. Oh Noah, you're not gonna believe this. You're not gonna. This is the timing of this is unbelievable.
I wonder how Ben's not watching.
Do you know what this is, Noah? Do you know what that is right there? Do you see that right there? What So for those of you listening, I've been handed a bag full. Is there that feels like extra honey chicken or honey shrimp in there? Thank you, darling. Thank you. Hadia saves the show once again. So you see how important group collaboration chat is, and how people are able to execute in like a really like fast and efficient method. And Noah in the past, this is a great analogy. In the past, Noah has flown like 3 states over to go to Panda Express, and now with collaboration tools like this, working as a team, Hadia was on top of that. Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. I know before we started this segment, you were kind of like, I prefer to use Telegram over Slack or Mattermost. Tell me a little bit about that, and I want to tell you why you're completely wrong.
Okay, all right. Well, with a setup like that, who could refuse? I really prefer. I don't have a lot of time in the day to be sorting through things, and you have the luxury of being involved with basically a singular organization, and basically everything can cater around that organization. I don't have that luxury, and so basically I work with a number of different clients who have their own individual infrastructure, and I have to tie that into my infrastructure. And then in the case of Jupiter Broadcasting, it's like this arm out on a leg that I need to be involved and current with, and at the same time, I really don't have the ability to say, well, I want to tie it into this, or I want to use it this way, or I want to interact that way. It is going to exist, and I just have to be, a part of that ecosystem.
Here's why I think it's actually so. In your case, you could have like a Slack thread or a Mattermost thread for every client, where discussions around those clients happen there.
But then everyone would have to use Slack or Mattermost.
Just like everybody has to use OS Ticket or whatever your solution is for. Right. So for me, and I think this is where we differ, is I generally manage each show in batches. So when it's time to work on Linux Action Show, I get done with TechSnap. And even though we work on the shows all week long, and that's one of the things that we use Slack for, is keeping things moving all week long, my brain fully switches into last mode as soon as I get done doing the TechSnap intro. And then all I really want to think about is the Linux Action Show. And so the fact that I can then separate off all of our other shows into separate threads that can wait for me is very valuable on how I focus. And if you think about like how developers might be working on one aspect of a project and then another aspect, and they can segment those off and just dedicate themselves to that and that conversation. And then because a bunch of people can be involved in it, a lot of times somebody will ask a question and then Rekai can answer it for me. By the time I get back, the problem's already solved. And I didn't have to jump right in. As opposed to a Telegram, which hits my phone and leaves me a notification badge, and I know there's something in there, like I can't unplug from it completely. The other really nice thing about Mattermost and Rocket.Chat and Slack is they have really simple, straightforward team support. You can have multiple teams. So we could have a Jupyter Colony Mattermost that's public to, say, all of the patrons, right? All the patrons get access to a Jupyter Colony Mattermost installation. And then we can have on that same server another team, which is just our private stuff. And it makes it really easy to switch between the teams. And so I could be in one mode and I can switch over to the other mode and have them completely segmented and isolated off, which I find to be extremely valuable because it sort of allows me to jump in publicly and then work privately behind the scenes on stuff in a way that is clearly and cleanly segmented and isolated. So I don't find it to be a problem that's off on its own thing. I find that to be an advantage.
Yeah, and so I guess what I've done is I like the isolation effect, and I do agree that it's very important to compartmentalize and move, things into their own categories. And the way I've done that is simply with muted Telegram chats. Now
I still get badge notifications, I think, though, or something.
I don't. Maybe that's a difference between iOS and Android.
Yeah, probably. Well, I don't even think Android officially supports badges.
Oh, okay, maybe that's it. But so basically, when I open up my Telegram, I have like a ghosted to tell me that there is a message there or that there's been activity since the last time I've been there. But other than that, I don't know that anything's happened. If it's unmuted, then I actually get a push notification, a sound, and an active notification saying there's something that demands my immediate attention. And so basically, the things that are passive, like in your case, if I have something that will demand my attention at some point, go ahead and put it in my muted Telegram chat, and when I get to it, I'll get to it. But if not, then I get to choose when I want to start addressing these issues, those issues. But I don't have 3 or 4 different solutions I have to go through. I have one device, one central communication hub that I can go to.
A couple more points before you go too much further. So a couple things I like better about this, for my organization, is Mattermost is hosted on my own server. Telegram is pretty good, but it's still you still have that issue. Other thing that's kind of nice is, you just need a web browser to use it. So if you take a look at this screen, the Jupyter Colony here, I can do an invite code, and I give people out an invite code to get in, which is really nice. I can include in a team directory. I can allow sign up from the front page. It just makes collaboration dead straightforward and simple with large teams. Whereas Telegram, once I give you my Telegram, I'm giving you the ability to page me. Even if it's in an offline thread, I open up Telegram to chat with, family members and friends. And if I start seeing, and I see a Mumble thread that's 45 messages deep, I have to go in there and see what it's about. Even if it's a different color number, there's still a number there telling me there's 45 things that have happened that I need to probably catch up on. So it's just not quite the same.
So I don't have I guess I just don't for those things that are muted. I especially we have a Mumble group that is just for the people that casually use Mumble, and then we all, like, if somebody's talking in Mumble about a picture, we'll post the link into Telegram, that kind of stuff. I open it up once a week just to clear that little unused thing, but I don't actually read any of the stuff because I don't care unless I'm actually active in Mumble chatting. I just don't care about stuff that occurs in there. But as far as the allowing segregation of people, we've actually just set up a link on our website that people can go to and send a Telegram message, but they don't actually have access to my Telegram username. And so I can talk with those people, or people can send me a message, but they don't necessarily have direct access to me. And that's, again, segregated in its own channel. So if I'm out doing family stuff, that channel is muted.
Fancy.
Don't look at it. Yeah. So I think we're accomplishing, the same thing in slightly different ways, but a lot of it comes down to preference. I think that you I guess, from what I'm hearing, demand the ability to totally and completely remove yourself from individual categories. And for me, it's much more important to stay tangentially connected to all of those categories, but simply be able to focus strongly on one and push out all the rest of them to a background. And I
would say, for me, some of it, that is a huge part of it. That's a key part. But also, I don't feel like using an instant messenger for all that stuff is using the right tool for the job. And then last but not least, I think what you're kind of downplaying and forgetting here is inline code support. Preview of links pasted in the room, so you don't have to click the dumb link. You just get a nice preview. Previews of YouTube or Google Doc links that you embed in there. Markdown support, rough Markdown support. The ability to upload to that channel and have it stay persistent for people to come join at a later time. And have it be something that doesn't require them to install Telegram. Like, these are all features that you just get by having a Mattermost installation. And then last but not least, it's hosted on your own server. I think what you're saying is, yeah, I can contort Telegram into doing all of these different things because it has a group chat feature and an ability to mute, but you're sort of negating all of the other features that Mattermost and Rocket.Chat have, which is chat happens to be the same thing that you can do in IRC. You can accomplish all of those same things you just did with an IRC client if you configure the IRC client properly. This is doing things that neither one of those things can do.
And I mean, part of it, I think, is that for example, I don't use the Markdown support inside of any of these. I just don't use it, and I don't really care about the external link. In fact, frankly, I'd rather have it open up inside of a browser so I can see what the entire article is about, or if it's a video, so I can full screen it inside of YouTube, that kind of thing. So those things aren't necessarily a priority to me. And the thing, again, for me, it all comes down to, how do I get it down to the minimal amount of applications I can install totally? As far as actually you don't actually have to install Telegram. I can go to web.telegram.org and sign into the website and send or receive messages that way too. So I mean, it's not necessarily that you have to install the client. It's certainly more convenient. You certainly get more usability out of it. And for me personally, I'd rather have that client. But I think it just comes down, I guess, personal preference, I suppose, to a large majority of it. But the one thing that you have me on that I don't have a good answer for is the fact with Mattermost, it's like you said, it's your hosted client. And there are people right now that this week, actually, that I couldn't talk to because they refuse to use very closed down Telegram, and they keep, with the whole ISIS thing and now they've banned certain bots and stuff. Telegram has over and over and over shown that they are watching, they are paying attention to what's happening, and they are controlling and censoring some of that stuff. And I don't have a good answer for that. That's a solid strike in your favor.
Well, I guess I would just, I want to move on. I think we'll just, my opinion is you're not you're not doing it right. I think you're using Telegram for stuff that Telegram's not really meant for. But that's fine. If you're not developing and creating something, I think that's probably, it's for people like that are software developers or when you're doing content creation, I think this is much more obvious choice. Mattermost and Rocket.Chat. And I want to just really quickly talk about Slack. All of these, I don't care what people use. If they use IRC, Telegram, Skype, whatever. This is just what people are using out there. And so Slack is the big one. Slack is the Skype and Google Docs of this space. And one of the things I definitely noticed when working already with all this stuff is a lot of people already have Slack accounts. They already have Slack set up. They have Slack installed on their phone. It's huge already. And Slack, I think at this point, is probably a slightly better product. If you actually want to use all of the features, you do have to pay like $8 a user, which it can be quite a bit of money if you have a bunch of users. The mobile apps are more baked. The integration with third-party services is better, but it's not open. And the thing is with a little bit of time, some of these could be, with the open source community behind them, could really see some interesting expansion where the why we would use it over Telegram would be very obvious. If you start integrating in really good, useful bots and third-party services, it becomes really obvious why you'd want to do something like this. Like if there was a way, Noah, where we could, and we very much can, because these are very extensible programs, where we could integrate it with live chats and events and things like that, where when we do a bang start show in the chat room, it could notify people in Mattermost, and you could start a channel in Mattermost about it automatically and set the topic automatically and things like that, where these are all features that you would have available to you with a program like this. And you can't quite get that level with Slack. You can do stuff, but you'll have to create a Heroku account, and that requires you set up an account with another closed down service and start paying money there. So it's not as long-term extensible as something like Mattermost or Rocket.Chat is. And so for me, the takeaway is the lesson we've learned over and over again is if you're going to have something that is vital to your company for collaboration communication, it shouldn't be on a hosted service.
Exactly.
And I think for us, Mattermost is probably the better way to go. It feels like it's better set up for large teams. There's a lot more settings I can do. I like the fact that it's using a Postgres SQL database instead of a MongoDB Docker image or whatever. I like the fact that I can set up developer keys and I can turn on webhooks right here. I'm not showing you some of this stuff because my keys would be showing. Here, I'll show you this screen. So Mattermost has a very nice configuration system console where you can set these things. It can show you a little bit of the statistics for Jupyter Colony. You can see we have 28 total users right now with 140 posts, 3 public channels, and you get a little spike. And if I scroll down, you'd see who signed up and their email addresses. I think. Let me double check that. Oh, yeah, I cleared that, but yeah. So I can see all the newly created users. It's Mattermost to me, if you're going to have more than 5 people, seems to be the way to go. Mattermost and Rocket.Chat are both very great. You're not going to go wrong either way. Rocket.Chat, I just felt like the mobile app was a little clunky, and the settings that you can configure are a little light versus what you can do with Mattermost. So Mattermost won out in the end for us. I think it needs a lot of third-party additions and extensions, though.
And here's one other thing to kind of tie up what you're saying. The thing is, there's a lot of people out there that might look, and especially if you're a Slack proponent, you'll say, well, I would definitely choose Slack over Mattermost because it has, more robust feature set. And the thing that I think we fall into as open source advocates sometimes is we get stuck in this loop. And the loop is the software doesn't have quite the same feature set that the proprietary stuff has, so we should use that. Because we're using that, we have more users on the proprietary stuff, so that's where all the people are devoting their time and energy and resources and the ability to connect all that stuff. And because that's where all that stuff is, we have a better feature set. Because we have a better feature, and then we just go around in this circle. And so, to some degree, somebody has to stand up and say, all right, you know what? I understand that Mattermost at this point doesn't have the feature set that Slack does. We're going to go with it anywhere. We're going to use it, and we're going to take all of our talented and dedicated, resources and bring it over to this platform. And because that's where these people are, they're going to start scratching itches and start fixing things. And that's, I think, how we really start to propel ourselves forward in the open source community, rather than just sitting back and saying, well, as soon as open source software gets to where the proprietary stuff is, then I'll come over there.
Yeah, and this point, I think, is even more important for any group that has a decent following. Where so if JB, here's what I was thinking about doing, is I put in the Tech Talk Today Patreon post where for patrons only, I put an invite link to the Jupyter Colony, our Mattermost, right? Because I just wanted to get. I'm not trying to be preferential. What I'm trying to do is get like a small bunch of users on there to test it for us, and bang on a little bit. And then what I'd like to do is see if somebody from that group or somebody out there would like to be the admin and set like the database up on its own droplet or something like that. You may be using private networking. Because what I feel like would be is if we start using this and we get community members working on this, then there's probably going to be eventually a community member that's going to come along and go, man, it'd sure be great if Mattermost could do XYZ for us. And then they'll build that, and then it's available to the Mattermost community. So instead of this stuff only being available to the Slack Corporation making Slack better, it's now going to be available to anybody. And the more open source projects that start doing this, the more that's going to happen. So I kind of felt like we should move over to Mattermost. It's just I would like to have it be something the community could use and something that the company could use too. So if anybody out there would be interested in helping me manage a Mattermost installation,
well, if we disagree on everything else regarding collaborative communication, we're 100% on the same page there.
Well, and if you haven't checked out Telegram, that's worth checking out too. So tweet me at ChrisLAS if maybe you'd be interested in helping me manage the Mattermost installation, especially if you've done some other ones or have some experience, and be willing to work with other people that might want to help us extend it. Because right now it's pretty cool. And if you're a patron and want to help me bang on it, be a user, that's available to you right now. And then we'll expand it out from there as time goes on, and I'll report back on my Mattermost experience. And I think there's even some like switch over from Slack to like bring in all your Slack history and your channels from Slack too. So there should, I don't really know if the script works that well, but there should be a way to move some of that over too. But then we'd be set. Then we'd be done. All right, no, I gotta eat my honey chicken or my honey shrimp. I keep calling it honey. It's got walnuts in there. It's just down the street. No, it's just down the street.
If this thing wasn't mounted to a thing, I would do a mic drop on you.
Where'd you fly to? Did you fly? I can't remember.
Denver has they have the Chinese food right in the airport in Concourse A. So you don't actually have to leave the security.
I've never heard anybody flying to Denver for Panda Express, but next time you can fly to Washington, we got a few more around here. So
yeah,
they just don't put them where it gets that cold. All right, that's the Linux Action Show's look at Rocket.Chat, Mattermost, and where they stack up against Slack. Let us know what you tried. And that brings us to the end of this week's broadcast. We got some great feedback and a call out to get to. But before we get to that, I want to thank System 76, sponsors of the feedback segment. They make awesome, powerful computers to help you do more with Linux, desktops, and laptops assembled right here in the US of A and serviced in the US of A. And they ship worldwide. They got great machines. Really super portable machines, desktop killing laptops like the Oryx Pro. It's a gorgeous machine, and some really cool innovative desktops. Check out the Meerkat with $50 off right now. Ratel Pro, which is a crazy great upgrade as you go machine with a small footprint. Oh, and the new Silverback update and the new Leopard workstation update. Man, go check that out. System76.com. Tell them the Linux Action Show sent you. Get yourself something nice. You can stop fighting with your hardware and get to play with your software. That being Linux. It makes the nuke and pave much simpler, Noah. Much simpler. System76.com. Okay, Noah, we were going to take calls, but I think just because a couple of our episodes have been running like super, super, super long. Mm-hmm. I don't know. What do you think? You think we should skip calls this week just because otherwise we're going to go for like... but we could do calls next week. You want to do... Okay, let's do calls.
Calls next week.
And maybe we might have a new phone number then. Maybe?
Yeah. Hopefully that port request will go through.
We'll see. Yeah. So I think we might start doing the calls more often. I think we might make that a more regular thing. So tune into the live stream, jblive.tv. We start at noon Pacific. Go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar to get that converted to your local time zone. I'm actually really damn impressed as many people are here. How many people do we have in the chat room right now? 441 during Super Bowl Sunday.
Wow.
That's just in the chat room. That's people watching that aren't in the chat room. All right. Our first email comes in from George with wishlist ideas. I wanted to contact you to let you know a couple of things from the wishlist episodes are, in fact, a reality already. Open Media Vault has a plugin for ZFS on Linux, and it uses DKMS. You need to go into the omv-extras.org section and then enable it. Well, there you go. Although I wanted something else, but okay, that's close. OpenWRT Project has a firmware now for most Ubiquiti APs, and they just added Cisco Meraki MR12s and MR16s. This doesn't give you an open source wireless cloud controller, but there's a cloud-based controller setup called Cucumber. Oh, I'm sorry, Cucumber Tony. It will allow you to control a number of OpenWRT devices through their setup. That's awesome. Yeah. They're not open source as far as I can tell, but their firmware is based on OpenWRT, and they're at least an option to use for cloud-controlled functionality across multiple hardware vendors. Anyways, just want to drop you a line to let you know that at least one of your wish lists came true a couple of years ago with OpenWRT on Ubiquiti. Maybe another one will come true a lot sooner than you might think. Ooh, he sounds like he knows something. Thanks, George. And this is using that new sticked desktop or weekly spotlight that we did where people could go reply. It starts with all of his crap in there. You can just delete that, put your crap in there. All right, Noah. Do you have anything to say to that?
Yeah, so I'm gonna definitely be checking that out. I can live. I live in tiers, and the first tier runs on Linux. The second tier is open source, and the third tier is Libre respecting. And so I work through those from start to bottom. So if I can get away from total proprietary products that are totally independent of any realm of Linux and start moving down that, I'm happy with it. So if I can start with getting something that runs on OpenWRT or a controller, even if it is proprietary, maybe something better will come along. But it's a nice stepping stone. But I want to jump over to Tom, and he writes in and wants advice on buying a System 76 laptop. He says, I need some advice. I'm purchasing my first System 76 laptop next week, and I'm currently run Ubuntu Mate on an older Acer laptop. I normally wouldn't worry about transferring my files and setting up a new machine, but I've got the system set up exactly how I want it. I need some advice on the easiest way to clone my system and transfer to the new machine. Is it even possible with it being already encrypted? Thank you for your time, and I appreciate the show, Tom. Well, Tom, my advice to you when I move from one system to another is to use a product like Clonezilla, and that's how I have imaged my machines when I'm moving one to the other. Now, there is one catch-all that you have to be aware of, and that is that you can only image to a drive that is equal or bigger than the original drive. And so, for example, if your computer is an older computer that has a 500 gig spinning disk, and you buy one of System 76's brand new machines that comes with a fantastic fast 128 gig SSD, it's not going to move over. You're not going to be able to image that way. So you'll have to buy a drive that is slightly equal to or bigger than your original drive. But if you can do that, you can use Clonezilla, make an image. You can do just an image of particular partitions, or you can do the entire drive, and it'll be as if you just moved the inner guts of your Acer over to a faster System 76. And the only real problem I've ever had with that is sometimes the network interfaces change, which on a laptop probably isn't a big deal.
I got a solution for you. You'll just need to go grab your parallel cable, and it should be just fine.
Today, we're going to talk about the Brooklyn Bridge. Not the one in New York, but this one. This cable and its associated software. With the arrival and performance of the PS2, as well as the 1 million IBM laptop portables, all of which use 3-inch disks, you may soon need Brooklyn Bridge to move data off your old 5-inch disks. Now, the Brooklyn Bridge is an elegant way to move data from old disks to new. You could do it through the communications port, a file at a time, but the Brooklyn Bridge is 12 times faster and automatic to boot. It operates about as fast as a floppy disk. Now, there isn't much to look at. You add a new device to your configuration file. You select one computer to act as slave, the other as master. On the slave end, you start up the program, then reboot the master. The master gains access to all the disks on the slave. A directory on either machine looks exactly the same. It's as if all the files were on the master. Copy, erase, execute programs. Brooklyn Bridge is $140 from White Crane in Norcross, Georgia. For the Computer Chronicles, I'm Paul Schindler.
See, easy peasy, Noah. Easy peasy. You just gotta use the Brooklyn Bridge.
The fact that you had that queued up and ready is concerning to me. I just want you to know that.
I'm becoming a monster, Noah. I'm becoming a monster. All right, our last email of the day. Hi, Chris and Noah. I wanted to share this online self-hosted invoice app that I found out on the internet. It's called invoiceplane.com. It looks good. Has anyone in the JB community used it? Thanks again for all your hard work putting together a fantastic show. I'm glad to see the video is back. I know it's more work, but I find it engaging. So, Noah, I know you've played around with this. Have you ever tried Invoice Plane? I know you got other stuff under the hood, too. What are you working with?
I have. I tried Invoice Plane and played with it for a little bit. I got to be honest with you. I went back to the solution I was using before, and that is Beansbooks. And what Beansbooks is it's basically a QuickBooks alternative, and you can download you can download it yourself and install it and do a self-hosted situation. But what I've done is I actually host it with the Beansbooks company, which their parent company happens to be System 76. So my concern that it will never not run on Linux or will go away or that my freedoms are going to be stepped on or any of that jazz that ordinarily I'd be worried about has never even been a thought in my mind. And the other nice thing is because, and you and I have both seen this firsthand, because System 76 is a very, very client customer oriented business. Every time we've ever had an issue with them, you reach up the path to get support up to the developer level is like a two-step thing. I mean, you write into their support, and if that guy can't fix it, they got a developer working on it to implement a change or get a new feature out or whatever it takes to make it work. It has met and exceeded my wildest expectations and been absolutely amazing. And because it's a hosted web solution, I can sit at a client, and this has happened. I'm sitting across from a client. They say, yeah, we were wondering if we could get that, we could get that invoice or this quote or this, that, and the other. And I'll send it off to my team back at the office and say, this is the kind of machine we're looking for. This is the computer we need, or this is the software we need, or whatever it is. And they go through, generate that quote. And I get a Telegram notification that says, hey, it's ready. Because I'll go ahead and let them know. And I can pull it up right on my computer, show it to them, export it into a PDF, email it right from Beansbooks, print it off. It's a phenomenal solution. And I think it's like they only charge, I think it's like $19 a month, I think is what we pay, or $25 a month, something like that.
That's for them to host it?
Yeah, and so the end of the end all be all is it ends up being a little bit cheaper than what QuickBooks would have been if I just bought the new version of QuickBooks every year. Except it runs on Linux, and it's just. And the other thing is you're supporting a company that really cares about the heart community. And
they have a 30-day hosted trial. You can just try it for free for 30 days.
That's actually what sold me on it. Was we tried the self-hosted thing, and it was good. It worked. It was great. And then I tried the they host it thing and the ability to ask them questions.
Yeah. And I have a rough understanding of how they've done the process isolation and the machine and data isolation. That's pretty good stuff. So your solution to the QuickBooks problem is don't use QuickBooks.
Yes, that's my solution to the QuickBooks problem is use Beanbooks. Yeah. It's an amazing...
Roddencorp says that he's worked with it a bit and the project that created it. But yeah, so there you go. So I'm one more feedback. Stigi34 wrote into the subreddit, Chris Lass, it's Lamanda, like Lambda, not Lamanda or Labamada, Lambda. And it's a pretty cool Amazon's take on serverless architecture, and the folks over at Linux Academy have a good write-up on. I guess last week, it turns out, Noah, I might have mispronounced something.
That's not possible. At least not you. You would never mispronounce.
No. I would never ever. I would never mispronounce something. Yeah, if you care about pronunciation and watch Last, you're probably gonna have a bad time because now we just have fun with it. Now we're just having fun with it. We'd love to get all your background submissions. I have a background I've been working with here for the video version since we've been back, and we have the raw source materials and some inspirations in the subreddit. I have a link in the show notes in the feedback segment. I haven't gotten any for a couple of weeks, and I'm running low on my stash. So if you'd like to help contribute to my background, I have a link in the show notes, and I could use a few more suggestions for what goes in that picture frame right there. That guy right there. Mr. Linus is in there today. All right, that brings us to the end of this week's episode of the Linux Act. Oh, I did have one more thing. So we've been going long recently, as I now stretch it out and make us go longer. I'd like to know your feedback on that, too. Some of you like it long, and some of you like it shorter. I would really enjoy your feedback. Let us know which way you like it and why in the subreddit linuxactionshow.reddit.com or on the YouTube comments. That'd be appreciated. Or tweet me at ChrisLAS. All right, everybody, thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Linux Action Show, and we'll see you right back here next week.
Yeah, basically what it is so for those of you that don't know, I moved, and when you move, nothing ever works right.
That's for sure.
And so I am living inside of my son's bedroom at the moment.
Oh, wow.
Well, I think I have pictures. We had to redo a bunch of we had to redo the bedroom. So the first thing I did was
before I even get in there, I'm going to just get this work started.
Right. Well, so the problem is I have, as you might imagine, a couple of electronics, and they suck because there's no ground plugs in the bedroom. And of course, anyone who knows about electricity knows that there's really no simple way to add. I mean, there's ways that you can cheat, like you can ground out and then use like GFCI plugs and stuff, which technically meets code, but that's cheating. So what I did was I went through and actually ripped out about a 2-foot section of the wall all the way around the house, all the way around that room, ripped out all the electrical wire, and and then pulled a self-wiring permit and then went through and reran all electrical wire. Now I'm going back through and patching, putting new sheetrock in, all that stuff, which is great, except it means that the room is a bloody disaster and is not inhabitable really. And so what I ended up doing is I'm sleeping on an air mattress in my son's room, and of course we have no TV, and there's really not a convenient way for me to have a laptop or anything like that. And so what I've done is I've gotten to watching my nighttime shows and such on my cell phone.
Sure.
But the problem is, what do you have when you want to watch cell phone in bed? Well, you have this crap, right? And after a while, this crap turns into this crap, and then this crap turns into this crap, and then that crap turns into
smack. Yeah.
So that happens, and that's a real pain, especially when you're falling asleep and it whacks you in the face. And that really sucks. So I got a device, and what it is it's a little clamp that clamps onto anything, and right now it's clamped onto the back of a chair. And then it has a gooseneck that comes around, and then it has a little like alligator thingy.
Oh, nice.
Holds my phone.
Check out. Okay. So check out what I've got. So I've got something that's. So I've got. You got these legs here. That can go on anything, right? So I can go.
Right.
Like that, and then it has. This is a camera phone mount that changes sizes depending on the size of your camera phone.
Yeah.
Or whatever you're using it for. So it's kind of neat.
So I had to get down to air mattress level though, and there's nothing for me to.
So which room did you send me a picture of? What is this? Which one is?
That's the bedroom. So if you look around the perimeter of the wall, you'll see where I'm mudding. That is.
Oh yeah.
Actually, it's not, I guess that's not really muddy. That's still I'm in the process of taping. But
dang. Are you doing that work, or are you hiring contractors to do that?
No, I'm doing it.
Here's the thing. Noah?
Here's the problem. I tried to hire contractors to do stuff. The problem is, then I go in and it never gets done right, and then
that's a thing.
Then I turn into a babysitter, and then I get mad, and then that's no good. So it takes like 10 times longer because I don't really have any spare time. But at least I know when it gets done right. And like we were joking about this, but particularly when it comes to running cable, when we run cable and cable a building, we check every single jack to make sure every one of them.
What a concept!
Yeah, right. What a concept.
So you're the only one. You're the guys. You're the guys that does that, huh? Because apparently nobody else does.
No kidding. And so I had an electrician. They were coming down into my basement to add some breakers, and they get done. There was only like 4 or 5 of them, so it wasn't like the end of the world. But I go down, and none of them are labeled, and I'm like, guys, seriously. Do you know how much harder it is to go back and figure out which one goes to which room? I mean, in this case, it was only like 4 or 5, so it wasn't a big deal, but it was still a pain. And I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'll just do it myself, and then it will get done once, and it'll get done right, and I don't have to question anything. And so,
you're not a control freak. It's just everybody else does it wrong, right?
Well, yeah, that's the long and the short of it. And the other thing is I spend more time in my bedroom than anywhere else because I don't really have a lot of free time at home. So when I get home, I want to lay down, I want to watch TV, and I want to fall asleep. And if stuff doesn't work because things aren't done correctly, I'm going to be livid, but it'll be too late for me to complain about anything because it'll 1 in the morning. So yeah, just doing it myself. But that's my solution to sleeping on an air mattress in my son's bedroom.
So it's interesting. So you and I, you sounds like more long term. For me, the weekends are a precarious sleeping arrangement right now because we got the new rig, much better to accommodate 3 young kids.
Yeah.
The thing is all 3 kids are at different sleep stages. Like Dylan could sleep until almost 8 a.m. if you let him. Whereas Abby is waking up at 5:30 a.m., right? And so when one person's up in an RV, pretty much everybody's up. So this time we thought, here's what we'll do. We'll put the girls, who sometimes have irregular sleep schedules, in our master bedroom, which is behind 2 closed doors, right? Just put them in there. They're self-contained. Hadiya and I and Dylan will sleep out here on these beds, right? Because there's beds out there. Man, I have turned into somebody who's super sensitive to light. So the light on the microwave was so bright that it kept me up like all night long. And so I was just, finally, after Abby woke up at 5:30 a.m., I went to bed. And I slept till about 7:30. So that was, I got from about 6 a.m. to 7:30.
You ever thought about it like a sleep mask?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to be able to have something on my face, but I don't think I can have anything on my face. So I just go off on this.
I'll have to ask Alex, but he's the same way. He doesn't like anything touching him.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he's mentioned that.
Super sensitive to light, and so he found like the world's best sleep mask. And that's the only way he can sleep in hotels because you think you're sensitive to light. the the charging light on my freaking laptop when it's sitting next to the bed is too much for me.
Oh, that'd be too much for me too. Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, the microwave clock is what kept me up all night. The clock on the microwave.
TV.
Yeah,
I
know.
TV on,
No, you fall asleep. Noah legitimately falls asleep on like the couch here at JB1 with his laptop right in front of his face on playing Netflix, and he's just like he's out. And I'm like, holy, it's like Flash. Dylan's the same way. Dylan doesn't care if there's light in his face or anything like that. I wasn't always so sensitive to it, but over the last few years, I didn't actually realize I was as sensitive until I started sleeping in situations where it was completely dark, like when we went camping and stuff, and then I realized, oh wow. Why am I sleeping significantly better all of a sudden? And then I realized, oh, it's because it's a lot darker. It made a huge difference.
Light pollution and sound pollution. Yeah, there's tons of science to back that up. And there's also tons of science to show that we sleep in too warm of conditions. You should really be sleeping at like 66, 68 degrees.
That's rough.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
That's rough, man. That's rough.
But naturally, you'll cuddle up under blankets and your body will self-regulate better.
What is Spark Post?
Here's what Spark Post will give you. It's specifically designed for massive like things that require sign up where it sends a confirm. So you get 10,000 emails for free a month. And then after that, you have to pay if you want more. And I think it's like, it doesn't matter because you're not going to send more than 10,000 in a month. But basically, you sign up and they basically give you a super long API key, which you use as an SMTP password, and then they give you a generic SMTP username and a generic SMTP gateway, and then you plug that into your thing, and then it sends emails. They can send emails out.
Huh? That does sound. You Telegram that us to me?
Yep. I just set this up this week, or last week. Yeah, this week, and it was incredible. It was a great experience. 12 hours a day, the entire time I'm at work. That's up on my screen. You know when I get to phone calls? When I'm done at the end of the day and I go back to my office, I check my voicemail to see what calls I missed, and then I'll call those people back. So you really enjoy you had to make sure to position it so that the food
Ooh, man, I gotta tell you, this is hitting the spot. I haven't had chow mein.
Yeah. Oh my. Did you get those Velcro ties?
No, I haven't gotten those.
Are you serious?
Yeah, but I don't check the mail. I don't know where you sent them. I don't check the mail too often.
Studio. Yeah, they should have come in an Amazon box. Well, you can go
Remember
ahead and
how I was saying sometimes stuff just goes in the mailbox with USPS?
Well, that's what it is. Well, anyway, here's the thing. You can go ahead and throw those out when they get there because I'm bringing zip ties, and every time I zip tie, I'm gonna label one sweet and sour chicken. I'm gonna label another General Tso's chicken.
Don't forget the walnut honey shrimp.
Yeah, that's gonna have two. I'm gonna get the big fatso one that they use for like zip tying people, like in the back of a cop car. I'm gonna get those.
Not that you're bitter. Not that you're bitter.
Not at all.